Good morning, Tampa Bay. Monday, June 27th. We appreciate you tuning in to Channelside in the Morning, live on the Channelside Sports Network, across all platforms today: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, you name it. Of course, across Tampa, it's a little somber this morning. Our Tampa Bay Lightning could not get it done for the third straight year in a row and win the Stanley Cup. But don't hang your heads. There's a lot of positive things that we could talk about. Of course, we will have Henry Yoho of Bolts by the Bay joining us in just a moment. We got to talk a little bit about the Rays. Sugar Shane is at it again with 10 strikeouts yesterday. And some Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There we go. I'm using that for the rest of the season. Tampa Bay Buccaneers is what it is. But nonetheless, we're going to bring in Henry of Bolts by the Bay, and we are going to talk all about everything that went right, wrong, indifferent with our Tampa Bay Lightning team yesterday in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. Henry, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning.
I see. I see. There's less wires here. You're gonna sound a little cleaner. Look at you.
Yeah, we'll see. Huh? Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay. Man, last night was rough. I mean, you were in attendance at the game last night. Did you stick around for the trophy celebration and all of that?
Yeah, I did. It's not every day you get to see that. So no matter the outcome, you have to appreciate the moment. There's nothing like that trophy coming out. So 2 years in a row of being at the cup clinching game, and 1 year your team wins it, and 1 year the other team wins it. So that's life.
I mean, it is. And, first and foremost, congratulations are in order to the Colorado Avalanche. They were the better team. I mean, we've got to be realistic about it. And you can say they were the better team because we were tired, and that's fine. Like, nobody's going to debate that. But I mean, at the end of the day, they were the better team. Was officiating bad in stretches? It was. Did it possibly even alter a game or two? Maybe. It weighed heavily on there. But the series is over, and it is what it is. It's going in the history books and the record books as the Colorado Avalanche are the Stanley Cup champions for the 2021-22 season. And they deserved every single moment of it, regardless of how you may have felt about the refereeing.
Yeah, definitely. Ultimately the team who played better in the series won, and it was totally a just outcome. And it was unfortunate that at times the refereeing kind of dictated the conversation about things and the way it went, and especially later on in the series. But for me, it didn't really impact who won or lost. Ultimately, the better team won, and it was too bad that was kind of where the discussion went. And you could totally look at some individual things that happened, and it is what it is. That's what's going to happen when you've got human beings out there. So ultimately it was, it is what it is. So ultimately the better team won, and you can't really look at the refereeing for me and say that this team won or that happened because of that. Is what it is. Can't change it, and it's ultimately a just outcome. That there's nothing you could say about it at that point.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, the Lightning, they didn't have anything left. I mean, they've played more hockey than anybody. They've played more meaningful hockey than anybody. They've had back-to-back Stanley Cup runs. The first team, I think, since the 80s and when the Islanders did it, to make it back to the Stanley Cup for a third straight season after winning the previous two. I mean, look, this team has everything going for them, and yeah, we can talk about salary cap and all of that going into the offseason, which we will do, but we need to let this kind of we need to let the smoke clear first before we do that. But man, you need to be very proud of what this team has done in their 3-year run.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like watching that third period, all I could think was they just had nothing left. They left it all out there, and it's just crazy that they even made it this far. To be honest with you, because that's almost the way a lot of people felt watching round one. It almost felt as though they had nothing left at that point too, and here they are in round four. They were 2 wins away, and it's felt like they had nothing left at this point. Like you said, they've played more than anybody. Uh, Shortened seasons, condensed seasons, deepest runs. Um, one of the things that sucks is, uh, the conversation was this year, at some point the miles are going to start to catch up to them. And, you know, this year, they came up short and they still played the maximum amount of games. They ended up
Yeah.
playing more games than the team that won. So
Yep.
you can't say, wow, they lost this time and now they've got a they've got a longer off season. It's just as short as it would have been if they'd won, and they got nothing to show
Yeah.
for it. So it
Yep.
sucks. But if you're playing all these games, that means you've accomplished a lot, and there should be no shame in the way they went out at all. Those guys left it all out there. It sucks for some of the individuals that couldn't win, but uh, you know they accomplished everything you could possibly imagine. So there is everything to be proud of, and there should be no regrets had by anybody.
Yeah. I mean, Colorado was the favorite all season. That's what it boiled down. I mean, preseason. This is I think this is I think they're the sixth team ever. I want to say ESPN stats and info release the sixth team ever to go into a season as the preseason favorite and actually win the Stanley Cup.
Mm-hmm.
That's,
Yeah,
I mean, say what you got to say, but that's impressive. It really is.
yeah. No, they went through the season. I thought as the most complete team, for sure. They were the favorites from the beginning, and rightfully so. They've had all the pieces in place, for a while now. Their foundation's been set, and it's been some time coming. They've had some heartbreak over the past few years, and the Lightning have been through that as well. So, they had what it takes to win, and they finally got over the edge this year, and they're a deserving champion. They were a dominant team all season long, and the way that they could take over individual games was incredibly impressive. So, very really rightly deserved champion for sure.
Best coach in the world, best owner in the world, best goalie in the world. Uh, Arguably one of the biggest hearts in terms of just being a good person and being a leader in Steven Stamkos, one of the biggest hearts in the NHL. I mean, there's so many positives for the team. And look, if you're tuning into the show for the very first time, first of all, we appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully, you guys like what Henry and I are discussing this morning. But I'm not a moral victory guy, and this is not moral. They got beat, plain and simple. They got beat. But I'm saying don't hang your head because this Lightning team has been fantastic, and they still have so much more going for them. And Steven Stamkos, after the game yesterday, they were at there. All of the questions basically had the underlying tone of, well, it's over. And Steven Stamkos actually says, who says we're done? And of course, you guys have loved it. We appreciate all of the 400 interactions we've had on that tweet. But it's true. Like, who says that this Tampa Bay Lightning team is done? They've got, let's talk about the cap, right? Everybody says that the cap is smoke and mirrors until they can use that as an excuse or a reason why, oh yeah, well, the cap, that's going to be why that they crumble. Well, I mean, I could probably go through your timeline or have a conversation with you to where you're going to tell me that the salary cap is not real.
Mm.
Who knows?
Yeah, it's a challenge that it's a challenge that they and everybody else has in front of them, and they've managed to juggle it through these 3 runs, and they've still put a competitor out there on the ice, and there's no reason to expect that to change as long as the foundation's in place. You got the best goaltender, and you've got a fantastic core of players, and there's every reason to expect that they can compete again. Obviously, it's hard to make it back to this stage just because that's just the nature of the game. it's hard, especially even now that there's even more miles on those wheels. And it is what it is, and they're still going to be a competitive team for sure. So I believe that they'll still be a contender as long as they've got this core in place, and the best goaltender, is what I'll always come back to, is they'll always have a shot with him in net.
Oh, absolutely. I think that what really stood out to me was physically seeing everybody just gassed at the end of the game. You could see guys had such heavy legs, like they were it was, if you were watching the game, and I get if you were upset about, the potentially missed hook or the too many men call from earlier in that game, I get it. But if you were over that by that point and you're just watching the game going, well, this is probably going to be the end. There's a lot of hockey left. Things can change, but if you're just watching it and enjoying it, you're looking at a refreshed Colorado Avalanche team, as refreshed as you can be 6 games deep into the Stanley Cup final, versus a Tampa Bay Lightning team that's literally just willing themselves up and down the ice at this point, because there's nothing left in that gas tank at all. They're just they're all just completely shot, banged up. How many times did you see Eric Chernak go down after blocking a puck and and have to take a couple of minutes to get up?
Yeah, that's what it takes this time of year, and ultimately, they just had nothing left. It sucks, that's is what it is. These series took a lot out of them. 7 games against Toronto in round 1. Of course, it was nice to have that sweep in round 2, but fighting from behind in round 3, going 6 games, it's tough. They had every reason to be as desperate as ever in the third period yesterday, down just 1 goal on home ice, trying to keep the other team from winning it on your home ice. And they couldn't do anything. It took almost 10 minutes until they got a shot on goal in the third period. That was the time to be the most desperate, and they just couldn't even do anything. You can't question their heart or anything, but they just had nothing left. After 10 minutes, the first shot on goal was from center ice. And they just couldn't do anything. There was nothing left. The other team had a lot more legs, younger, faster. They were rested after having a sweep in round 3, a sweep in round 1. They only lost 4 games the whole playoffs, so they just had more in the tank at the end. That was what put them over the edge, especially in that third period.
Yeah, I think for me, you've got guys that are maybe not that don't necessarily watch hockey religiously. Why aren't they shooting? Why aren't they shooting? Shoot the puck. Well, hey, shooting the puck ain't that easy. Especially when you're going against a bigger and a faster team that has more energy than you. It's not easy to just shoot the puck. This isn't NHL 22 on PlayStation, right? Like this is this is a lot harder than turning a video game on easy mode and then unloading 150 shots a game. You can't shoot the puck at all times free at will just because you want to shoot the puck. So the Avalanche defense stepped up when they needed to. Obviously being the devil's advocate, Henry, you go, okay, well, hypothetically, if they were able to finish off the Leafs in 6 and they were able to finish off the Rangers in 5, maybe would have been seeing a different output and a different outcome in this series. But they didn't. And that's really what it boils down to at the end of the day, is they unfortunately just couldn't make it. And like John Cooper says as well, this is the playoff streak ended, but it's not the end of our run. And he's right. He's 100% right. And I really liked, did you see his interview with Kevin Weeks after the game? I know obviously that came on when you were still at the arena, but I'm not sure if you saw the replay of that.
No, I don't believe I saw that one specifically yet.
This is we all know how good of a talker John Cooper is, right? Mm-hmm. And I guess paraphrasing it, he said a lot of times especially when you're coaching, you remember the teams that won. and you don't necessarily remember the teams that didn't win. But he's going to remember this team above all, and he's going to remember this team forever. And they didn't even win, based off of the overcoming of all of their injuries, based off of the heart that they showed. I mean, like you said, they were taken to the brink twice already in this postseason. They kind of squeaked into the playoffs. They missing arguably their number one scoring threat for the entire playoffs, essentially. Everything that this team did is just it's a memorable team, and it does put it into perspective, because it is a memorable team that didn't actually win, which is that says a lot about what we saw from the Lightning this season.
Yeah, definitely. Their run through the playoffs was pretty incredible, because they had to beat some great teams. You look at the Lightning's outlook on things, going through the regular season almost is always just get into the playoffs and then see. So they went through Toronto in round one, a team that had, of course, a better record. They went through three teams who had over 100 points. Every team in the Eastern Conference had over 100 points this year. Round one, they beat the league MVP and the league's leading goal scorer. Round two, they beat the President's Trophy winner, who they beat the year before. And, they had every reason to believe that they were going to finally beat the Lightning this time. Nope. Round three, they beat the Vezina Trophy winner, the best goalie all season. And then, in round four, they ran up against the best team. So, they've had incredibly huge mountains along the way. It's probably one of the toughest journeys to ever get to this point, for sure. And ultimately, the best team still stood in the way, and they weren't able to get over that hump after, everything that they had gone through. So, it is what it is. They do have incredibly, incredible reasons to be proud. Just because the journey to get to this point was so tough.
Yeah, it was. And Vazzy, obviously, he didn't play his best throughout this playoffs, but that's still, I mean, I was actually having this conversation yesterday morning. Somebody brought up, Michael Jordan scored 2 games in one game. I'm like, well, that was 2002. That was at the the very end of his career. I was like, but good players don't always play great. They're human. It happens, like that doesn't mean that Andrei Vasilevsky is still not probably the greatest goaltender of this current generation, like head and shoulders. I would say Shesterkin is probably probably number 2, but we're talking about a goalie that's 27 years old, Henry, that is already being regarded as one of the top playoff goalies ever, based off of this 3-year run that they have had. So I don't understand the slander of Andrei Vasilevsky by even some of our own Lightning fans. It's perplexing to me.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think you can ask for anything more out of him. Maybe more so in this playoffs than previous rounds. There were some tough games, and in game 1 of this round, he gave up, or game 2 of this round, he gave up 7 goals. Some lopsided numbers here and there, and he didn't have the greatest stats as he has in the past, just because some games were not good. And it is what it is. You're always gonna have a chance to win when you've got that guy. But there were some tough games. There's no way around it. But you can't put it on him, because he gives you a chance to win more times than he's gonna let you down. So he's been the best goalie, and he's still young, so he's gonna keep giving his team a chance to win as long as he's in net. So
yeah, I would take Andrei Vasilevsky 10 times out of 10 times if I was given the opportunity of, like, hey, here's 10 fantasy drafts or actual expansion drafts. Who do you want to take first? Andrei Vasilevsky is probably number 1 every single time for me, no matter what the circumstances. Another thing that I've been noticing is, so see what happens when they try to win a real cup. and the COVID season, the shortened season. Look, Tom Brady's got 7 Super Bowl rings, and people are still saying win a real ring. Like, come on, people. Like, we get it. Like, I don't know if you actually believe that, or if you're just saying that for attention. But if you actually believe that these teams are not out there busting their ass, that are not out there competing at the highest level that they possibly can compete at, no matter what the circumstances are, you're absolutely out of your mind. And I've got no time for you. And don't, I've had to, our mute button has been strong on the Channelside Sports Network Twitter account these last 24 hours. And it's not your typical Colorado Avalanche fans, because I've interacted with a lot of them, and a lot of them are very cool. A lot of them are respectful. You know, you'd like to joke around and kind of poke fun and have, you know, and kind of the friendly trash talk, if you will. But man, like some of these people, you just like, just got a face palm. Just, oh my God, come on now. Like, get it over with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just sort of the reality of social media and the world we live in, when everyone tries to bring each other down and tries to invalidate things that you do. But you know, no level-headed person or people whose opinion really matters it really feels that way about what the Lightning accomplished. You know, they won 2 of the hardest cups you could say ever. You know what they did. You know, no one will ever be able to take that away from them. So, what people say online, you know, it is what it is. You know, but you know, you can't take away what they've done for sure. They've had some incredible accomplishments. They've done it in a variety of different ways, and so, you know, that's just the way it is.
I want to ask you this, because this thought just came to my head as well. So right after the game, when it went back to the panel with Steve Levy, Mark Messier, and Chris Chelios,
Yeah,
Steve Levy was very quick to say, well, the Avalanche won, and the Lightning are not a dynasty. They didn't get their third. You need that third to be considered a dynasty. Do you agree with that, or?
Yeah. Well, there's 2 components to that, I think. Well, for one, you know, if you do need 3, you know, like we said before, it's not over. They're not done. You know, the Chicago Blackhawks got 3, and they're considered a dynasty, and it took 6 years in between theirs. You know, if the Lightning win 3 and 4 years, of course that's a possibility. If they win, they're totally a dynasty at that point. You know, who's to say it's over? You can't say, oh nope, they're done with that talk. But truthfully, you could call them a dynasty as it is. You know, no one has done what they've done in 3 years and in like 40 some years. You know, no one's been to this point. And getting this far, they were 2 wins away. You could totally say that they are, but definitely not. You can't dismiss it and say that they're done or that it's over. You know.
I just thought
nobody else has. Yeah.
No, I was saying, I just thought it was really weird that was the first thing that Steve Levy said when they went back to him. And you know, we've heard a lot of chatter about the ESPN commentary, and most of it is not nice. Most of it is bad. We've talked about it before as well. I think in the first round we talked about it during the Maple Leafs. No, it wasn't. It was had to have been the Rangers round, because that's when everything shifted over to ESPN. And you know, we talked about that. It kind of as well. It was a little nicer the way that we were saying it, but I just, for me, I feel like somebody at ESPN is feeding people like these lines, because Steve Levy's been here forever. He knows what to say. He knows how to speak. He knows how to articulate his thoughts. Emily Kaplan is a very good journalist. She was on Around the Horn, so she's used to being on TV. But even like some of the questions that she had asked, you know, like when you're watching it, you're going, somebody had to have fed her that question, because I've read her work for such a long time, and I've read interviews and stuff, and it feels like somebody at ESPN is saying, hey, say this, we need clicks, or hey, say this, we're going for social media shares. And it feels like that's almost kind of where it has turned to at this point in time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, when I read that comment that Steve Levy made whenever it was thrown over to him, it was a bit of a head scratcher, just kind of dismissing this other team, whenever, the Avalanche had made the top of the mountain and they were like, oh, the Lightning are done. I was like, why don't you talk about the team that won? They deserve to talk. That's what you should be talking about. Not the team that they beat. But yeah, you can't totally dismiss the Lightning as being done. It's just weird that people write them off. Of course the mileage has totally piled up, but they're still going to be a good team. You can't say that they're dead. That's just weird to me.
Yeah. No, even Cale Makar before the game started, he said that we're trying to end a dynasty and start a legacy. And I think that's probably the best way to put it is the Lightning are a dynasty. I will, like I said, I think I said that on the last show on Friday. I'm willing to die on that hill. Hockey is such a tough sport to get to the pinnacle to where if you're doing it for 3 straight seasons and you've won 2 out of those 3, to me, that's dynasty. That's where you're talking about dynasty material. The Blackhawks didn't get to 3 straight Stanley Cups. And we talk about them, like you said earlier, we talk about them as a dynasty with Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves. Why are we not talking about that? Is it because of that 3rd cup? Because they're the only team since the 80s to compete for a 3rd straight cup anyway. So I feel like you said there's kind of different layers to it, and you have to kind of put all of that stuff into perspective and say, okay, well, this is the first team in 40 years to accomplish this feat, whether they won or they lost. How about we just look at this objectively instead of just going, oh, well, they didn't win the 3rd one, they're done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's probably easier to say that kind of as a prisoner of the moment, but no one has done this and say, oh, they didn't win 3 in a row. Well, nobody's won 3 in a row since the 1980s. The world and the game looked a lot different then, and no one has done that since. Teams that you might consider dynasties in the more modern NHL, Pittsburgh, they won 3, but the time between first and second was 2009 to 2016. It's years in the making. It's not one time. Chicago 3 and 6. The Red Wings, I mean, they won 4 in 11 years. In the early 2000s and the 90s. Those are teams that you consider dynasties in the modern NHL, but spans between years. They won 2 in a row this year, and this year they lost. That's can't be a prisoner of the moment. The time's a lot bigger than just what we saw in this one playoff.
Yeah, 2-1 in 3 straight years is better than 3 and 5. Like in my mind, especially if you're talking about where you're ranking teams. To me, if you're going to get to 3 straight Stanley Cup finals, you need to be considered with those teams that have won 3 Stanley Cups within 5, 6, 7 years. Because there's no possible way that the Lightning just completely regress and then they're no longer a contender and they go into a rebuild for the next decade. Like, that's not going to happen. You still got John Cooper. You still got Andrei Vasilevsky. And I swear I better not hear any trade Steven Stamkos talk because he's old in the offseason from anybody, including you, Henry. People say that, but that's always like the talking point every offseason is, oh, Stammer's getting old. Got to trade him while he's still got value. He stepped up. He showed that he is the reason why this team is where they were. And you don't trade away a guy like that, especially if you don't expect a collapse. Because if you trade away Steven Stamkos, I fully expect this team would collapse the following season.
Yeah. Now, people were saying that even when they won, just because of, I don't know. People always want something to say. But, no. He's the cornerstone of this franchise.
Yeah.
From everything started to turn around whenever the pillars of him and Hedman got put in place, building through the draft. That's where the foundation of the team and where all of the success began to come from. So, um, there's no room for discussion about that to me.
No, there's not. I appreciate everybody tuning in this morning. If you guys are new to watching Channelside in the morning, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube, and hopefully you like what we are discussing this morning. Going obviously kind of Bolts heavy because this is, hockey season is officially over as of the final horn last night. So, it's not going to be an everyday thing where we get to talk about hockey anymore, and that's, the hockey offseason is kind of boring. If we're comparing it to all of the other sports, a lot of the guys don't use social media. So they're not out there saying like outlandish things. They're not out there getting in trouble. Like they're not making headlines. So it's the hockey offseason is very quiet. We'll say that. So we gotta enjoy it while it's still here. And even though we were on the losing end, it's still something that, got to try and hold on to and cherish while we're still here.
Yeah, for sure. So like the last 3 seasons have almost been entirely playoffs. I don't even remember a lot of the regular season games. This is what you remember the most, and when you're going this far, it sure is a lot of fun. So it sucks once you get to the end, but ultimately, I wouldn't have wanted to go any other way.
And I think we have to talk about Jeff Vinik possibly being the best owner in all of sports. I don't know. I don't believe they announced it on television last night, but obviously I do know that they announced it on social media and inside of the arena. Jeff Vinik allowed every full-time employee for the Tampa Bay Lightning to pick a charity that he was going to donate $5,000 to, and he totaled a donation of $1.2 million to charities in the greater Tampa area. And that's, I mean, you don't really ever hear of that. Like you don't. How impressive is that?
No, it's incredible. Best owner for sure. He sent all the full-time employees to Game 5 out in Colorado, and then last home game, he always he writes a check every home game for the community hero, and it's always an incredible donation. 50,000, 100,000. That's incredible as it is, but talking about $1 million more than to the full time employees to decide where they would like that money to go. That's unbelievable. That's an incredible amount of money, and to be putting that back into the community, that's part of the success that this team and this downtown community have had. Everything that all the success that has been had, starts with team ownership, and it's all come down from there. And can't say enough good things about what the ownership has done here for the team and the community as a whole.
Yeah, it's they have really rallied the troops when it comes to like our community and what this Tampa Bay Lightning franchise and organization has done. And it's so impressive because hockey is probably, I would say hockey might be the least popular sport out of our 4 big sports in America between football, baseball, basketball, and hockey. But what Jeff Vinik does and what he has done, especially in this area, is bigger than any other team has ever done. And it's, to me, that speaks volumes. And I strongly believe that if other owners started taking a page out of Jeff Vinik's book, that hockey as a whole would just start benefiting from it in terms of getting more fans, getting more eyes on the product. It's fun to watch. Like when you go to Emily, right, and you watch a game, when you're sitting around people, that probably didn't like hockey 10 years ago. And
Mhm.
to me, that's the coolest thing. Like when I used to go to games at Joe Louis Arena, I'm sitting around, I'm 9 years old at the time. I'm sitting around people that are 50, 60 years old that have enjoyed hockey for 40 plus years, like that's what they know. So hockey is still new to a lot of fans. And if you want to continue to evolve the sport and grow the sport, owners, you got call up Jeff Vinnick, ask what he's doing,
Mhm.
and take a page right out of it and say, yep, this is what we're going to start doing for our community.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's been incredible to see the way that this organization has grown since the time he came on board. Everything has gone to another level. The arena has improved. Um, the community involvement, of course, the downtown area has improved, and he's made tons of fans. Hockey's not normal here. It's not. It's
Right.
not something that's been rooted here that people have done forever. It's all new, and he's made fans out of everybody that comes around, and of course everyone loves the games just because it's a lot of fun, regardless of how much you care about the hockey or not. And it really is incredible, the product that they've built here, and you don't have to look further from the community to see what good or bad ownership does. It's an incredible product that the Lightning have here, and an incredible following. And you just look across the bay, the Rays, terrible ownership, and
Yep.
they've got you know a not so exciting team just because of the way that ownership doesn't invest in the team on the field financially, and they don't invest in the community over there, and they just don't have that sort of presence. And ownership has a lot to do with that.
Do you think if the Rays did move to Tampa that they would almost as by association be forced to be involved more with the community, knowing what the Lightning do and knowing that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do a lot with the community as well? Do you think that that would ultimately kind of force their hand? And these are more thoughts that are just coming to my head as I'm asking this question. Do you think that's part of the reason why they haven't been so hard pressed to look into moving into Tampa, because they don't want to be associated with these teams that are in the upper echelon spending money and
Mhm.
doing all of these things that the Rays franchise just currently doesn't do?
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's certainly a factor. When your owner doesn't even live here full time, it's really hard to have any sort of presence or feel for what's going on. Um, if they were to come here, I definitely think that there would be some pressure to have more of a presence. Obviously, living here in Tampa, the Rays, to me, they don't have much of a presence here in the downtown area at all. You know,
Hmm.
obviously the games so are so far away, but they don't really have any sort of presence here in downtown. It's all about the Lightning or the Bucks. The people care about baseball for sure, and people love the Rays, and the Rays have a good following, but
Hmm.
they don't have a presence here. You know,
No.
you would never know that there was a team here. They just don't have that presence over here.
Yeah, like you see so many more go Buck signs and go Bolt signs spread out all throughout downtown, hanging from buildings, billboards, bench like bus stop benches, and especially when you go near Sparkman and near Channelside, of course, that's where the majority of everything down there is Lightning, of course, because Emily is right down there. But yeah, you just don't have that appeal from the Rays, which is unfortunate because baseball is a very popular sport. And Rays fans will, when you talk to Rays fans, they're passionate. We had 100 wins last season. We were in the World Series 2 years ago. And if you don't follow baseball, you don't know that, right? Like, if you live in New York City, you know exactly how the Yankees are doing, even if you don't watch baseball. If you live in Detroit, I probably have 9 Detroit Tigers hats because that's what you do. That is the culture in Detroit. You know, like it's just a weird dynamic for me is like if you don't religiously follow the Rays, you have no idea what's happening with them because they're just happy where they are, not being included in anything. And the more that we talk about it, the more I'm starting to kind of, buy into my own thought process of, yeah, Jeff Vinnick is leaving some pretty damn big shoes shoes to fill for the Rays to move over to Tampa. Um,
Mm-hmm.
People talk about the Glazers and the Buccaneers all the time, and obviously, when you're winning, things are good. When you're not winning, things are bad. We're Jason Light's drafting a punter in the draft early, things like that. But then he's also drafting Devin White and Tristan Wirfs. And when things are good, things are good. When they're bad, they're just they're atrocious, and it's the worst person ever, or whatever. But the Rays are a winning team. They've been a contending team with very little support from their ownership group. And I think it does go a long way if, like, how do we get Jeff Vinnick to get on the phone and make a phone call and just say, hey, how much? How much to buy the Rays? Like, how much
Mm-hmm.
do you want? Like, it's just crazy to me just to see how much this man has embraced this community. And I can only think positively going forward if he were to happen to buy the Rays. I know that's a conversation a lot of Lightning fans have, but if that actually did happen, that would just be, I would be beyond ecstatic for that franchise, knowing that now they have an owner who he does all of the other little intangible things. He
Mm-hmm.
donates community. He has his community heroes donations every home game. He just donated $1 million. Like, flew out the full-time employees to Colorado, like you said. He just does so many positive things that if we were to have that from all of our sports teams, like, just imagine how much better everybody would feel about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it all starts with ownership. The thing that I always remember is, of course, a lot of owners don't necessarily have a background in sports, but Jeff Vinnick had no background in sports and hockey. He whenever he got it, he was like he didn't necessarily know what he was doing, but ultimately what he did was he found people to put in the right places to grow the team on the ice and the team in the community. And so putting those people in the right places, he knew what he was doing by hiring the right people. And, the community was a priority from day one. And, most owners aren't popular among the biggest, among all teams in North American sports. Most owners you think are, well, they're all billionaires that, don't relate to common people at all. And none of them are popular. And when you've got an owner for a team like this that's as popular as he is, that says a lot.
Yeah, and it reflects on his team's product too. Everything is just everything just works together like in perfect symmetry, perfect harmony between the ownership to what we see on the product, on the ice between the Tampa Bay Lightning team. So to me, it's just, I said, nothing. You can't be anything but proud of everything that this organization has done, and going forward, they'll be back next year. There's the core is still there. They're still gonna be back. I said, well, obviously, we'll dive into that. Maybe yesterday. I think when you and I were talking off air, I was like, yeah, we'll talk about it like first week of July. I completely forgot that it's June 27th. All of these days just kind of mesh together at this point when you're,
Mm-hmm.
when you're grinding and you're covering playoff hockey and you're doing all these things, everything just blends together. So yeah, we're not going to cover that the first week of July because that's also this week.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many positives that you could take away from this season outside of looking at the box score going, well, they lost. Because yes, they did lose, but I mean, like I said, there's so many positives that it really showed a team how much a team can battle if they have a unified front. That's what it showed to me, is that when you've got, like, look at Brandon Hagel, right? Brandon Hagel was a scorer in Chicago. Brandon Hagel with the Tampa Bay Lightning, role player. Like, to me, that says a lot about the talent level on this team, right? And B, just like everybody is buying in. How many players do you know in, and I know wide receivers are divas a lot of times, but like, how many players do you know in other sports, like a wide receiver or a basketball player that is still young, like Hagel is, that would be willing to go to another team and say, I'm cool not being a star anymore. I'll just fall in line. I'll be a good soldier and I'll do what I need to do and I'll just be a role player. You don't see that. So that's that the whole culture is just, it's such a winning culture that people are okay taking a back seat. That wouldn't be okay taking a back seat if it was any other sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's something you don't really see in the other sports, and it's a big thing in hockey for sure. Buying into the team. That's what matters most. When you've got a winner, that's something that people want to be a part of. We saw that this off season with all the veterans who were willing to come here to play on cheaper deals to just have a chance. Corey Perry, Pierre-Edouard Bellemare, Brian Elliott. Those are guys who are on the back nine of the career, and they were willing to take the lower pay to have a chance to win. When you've got people that are willing to buy into the team and what the team is doing, it can go a long way. And like Hagel for sure, over 20 goals through March, on a team that was out of it, the whole time, and to come in here and to not be a goal scorer, it had to be tough to accept that at first. But ultimately, when you have a chance to win, that speaks for itself. And when you've got that you can commit to, it makes it a lot easier to do that for sure.
The whole organization has just, and speaking of Corey Perry, this is where I was going to go with that. How unfortunate is it? Corey Perry on the wrong side of history, man. The first player. So let's talk about his highs and lows from this series alone. The first player to score a goal for 3 different Stanley Cup teams. Let me try to rephrase that so I don't sound like I'm completely lost here. Corey Perry was the first player in NFL history to score a goal for 3 different teams in the Stanley Cup final.
It's 4.
That's right. But he's now the first player to lose 3 straight Stanley Cup finals.
Yeah.
And like, if you're Corey Perry and you're waking up this morning, are you looking in the mirror going, am I cursed or what? Like, man, I can't even imagine how he feels right now.
No. Yeah, that's probably the person I feel the most for. It sucks. 3 years in a row of getting to this point and losing. He's gone the distance 3 years in a row. That's just crazy. It sucks. I feel terrible for him. You can find some peace, I guess, for him that his name's on that trophy forever. That was in 2007. That was so long ago. So much has happened for him over the course of his career since then. But 3 in a row, man, that sucks. Of course, he's under contract another year, so he's got to believe that there's a chance to do it again. And God, I mean, hope the 4th time's a charm for him. That sucks.
Right? Yeah, it's crazy. Do you think with Tom Brady being the ultimate competitor, do you think that had the Lightning won their 3rd straight in a row, that would have given him more ammunition heading into the NFL season to be like, all right, well, look, we've got to win the Super Bowl now. Like it's 100% Super Bowl or bust. Like we thought that, that was our goal before, but this team whose arena is 3 miles away from our stadium just won their 3rd straight in a row in arguably a harder circumstance than what we have. We got it. We have to win the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think that would certainly be an element that would be on the mind. It's just crazy the way that the winners have kind of built on one another in this town. It's a lot of fun to see. The Lightning set the tone, and then everything that went the Bucks' way afterwards, it was pretty cool. So it's been fun to see how the community's kind of built on each other, and winners have been made.
I mean, I think, and we've seen that like in Boston, right? When the Patriots won the Super Bowl, the Bruins won the Cup. Obviously, the Red Sox won the World Series, and they all do kind of go hand in hand with each other. And that's where you talk about the Rays again, where you're like, all right, the Bucks are Super Bowl or bust every year for these last 3 years. Excuse me. They won one, but the Rays are like, we were good last year. And you're like, well, like, what are we doing to improve this year? We've got to, and look, they just swept the Pirates. Maybe that's all you need. Sweep a team that you should sweep. Things fall in line. You get some new blood on offense. You clean up the fielding on defense, and maybe things turn around. But you still don't look at this team and go, yeah, they're a World Series winning team. You look at the Yankees right now that are running away with everything, whether it's batting average, ERAs, home runs, and all of this stuff this season, and go, no, that's probably your World Series winner right here. And you look at the Bucks. I think the Bucks are second in everybody's power ranking. Sports books, national media, local media. It's the Bucks and the Bills. That's who it should be. So if everything lines up like the NHL does, we're going to have the Bucks and the Bills in the Super Bowl out in Arizona. But what about the Rays? Like the Bucks and the Lightning are playing fine with each other. Is it because we got to go across the causeway to get to the Rays? Is that why they're kind of just like, yeah, you guys do your thing. You guys hang out. You challenge each other back and forth. We're in St. Pete. We're just kind of chilling over here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, there's a number of different cities you could look at for riding the momentum over between teams. But in this community, there is certainly a bit of a disconnect between the two teams here in Tampa and the team over there. It's just the way it is, I suppose. It sucks when not everyone's kind of on the same wavelength. But that's just sort of the dynamic that is had here, unlike some other big cities. And everyone supports the Rays. Everyone wants them to do well, but the dynamic is just different here.
Oh, 100%. Sternberg, if Vinnick calls, pick it up. That's all we can say. If Jeff Vinnick is on the other line, pick it up and come to some sort of agreement. I mean, hell, Shaquille O'Neal's talking about trying to buy the Orlando Magic now. I know Orlando's about an hour away, but that's still technically like our team over here in Tampa as well. I mean, if you're talking, there's certain players that I believe in the NBA or just in sports in general that are polarizing enough to where if you are associated with an organization, players will want to flock to that organization. And I really strongly believe that if you've got Shaquille O'Neal as an owner of the Orlando Magic, you are now talking about other players going, hell, I want to go to the Orlando Magic. Let's play with Shaq. Let's run it in Disney. Let's go let's go win. And they're not that they're building back. They're building up. They are rebuilding properly. Obviously, Paulo Banchero is the first pick. Great pick. He should pan out very well in the NBA. Jonathan Isaac might be coming back. They've got a lot of great things going on for that franchise. So if you're talking about Shaquille O'Neal, and it's probably a pipe dream, right? But if you're talking about a team in Orlando that's going to start winning, now we're talking about our basketball team, building up and starting to be competitive. Our football team is always a contender. And even after Tom Brady's gone this season, they're still a contender, in my opinion. You can plug and play a serviceable quarterback with the talent that team has, and they're still going to be good. We're talking about the Lightning team that is going to be a contender next season. And then we're looking at a Rays team where they should be a contender, and you're just wondering why they're stuck in third place still. I don't know, Henry.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
got
yeah. Ownership has a lot to do with it.
we got to get the
If
rub.
yeah, 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 talking about Shaq, I mean that'd be neat because it should be an attractive place for people to come and play anyway. But with if there was a popular person in place, everyone loves Shaq. That'd be
Yep.
a great place to start building a foundation of the team, just because that makes it even more attractive of a destination. Of course, the Lightning and the Bucks have become destinations for free agents and people that want to come here and win. Um, you know, the ownership and the culture that's been created has a lot to do with it.
Um, I know as we talk about like the Rays and their stadium, today's supposed to be the day, actually, according to what Commissioner Manfred said. He wants to have a decision by June 27th. So today's the day that we're supposed to find out at least who they're going to pick as a builder.
Mm.
And I guess if you follow the builders closely, then you should I kind of be able to tell where you think they're going to go with it. To me, I'm not a superintendent. I don't work in construction, so if you say yeah, XYZ builder is going to do it, that to me that means nothing. Like I don't know. Oh, I can Google search them and say okay, I've seen them build other stadiums or whatever, but um I know people talk about Ebor a lot, and then the backlash from that is well, they're going to have to like tear down some historic buildings. Yeah. Like we this is what we do in America. Like why would this be different? Like Shea Stadium hosted some of the greatest events that this country's seen outside of baseball. That's where the Beatles had their very first concert in the US, right? Tore it down. No problem. It's gone. Yankee Stadium tore down. It's gone. Like so many things that we don't think should be torn down get torn down. And a lot of the buildings in Ybor that they're looking at in the area they're looking at, a lot of those buildings are vacant anyway. And they've been vacant for a long time. And they're just like overrun by, they're not maintained and there's nobody there. So why not put something there that's going to attract people to the rest and the remainder of Ybor that is there and is active and has businesses inside of those buildings and let those places thrive. Because I don't know when the last time you were at Ybor is. Ain't that nice anyway. Even like I know we love it because it's historic, but let's be a little realistic. We could use a little renaissancing in that area as well.
Yeah, certainly that would be cool. But as far as the stadium conversation goes, I'll always say I'll believe it when I see it. I've lived here in the Tampa area for 15 years now, and the entire time I've lived here, that's been the conversation. And been the Rays are going to get a new stadium here or there, and they're gonna. The conversation just keeps on going forever, and it never happens. They've never, truthfully, it's never really gotten close to me. It's around and around. It's going nowhere. So I'll believe it when I see it.
Well, they're going to be forced to. They're going to be
Yeah.
forced to do something
Mhm.
very soon. I mean, they've got what 3 years? I'm sorry, what is it? 5 years left, 2027. And then that lease is up in Tropicana. I mean, I
Mhm.
feel like with Sternberg, the easiest thing for him is just say, "Oh, let's just renew the lease in Tropicana." And I wouldn't put it past the ownership unless unless the owners of that arena are like, "Now we're done." Like we want
Mhm.
other stuff here other than Rays baseball because not that many people are coming to watch Rays baseball. I mean, there was a time. Do you
Mhm.
remember? This is probably I don't know about 10 years ago when they were basically giving away tickets to the Red Sox and Rays playoff games, and they still couldn't fill the fans.
Mhm.
Literally
Yeah.
giving them away, and like to me, it speaks volumes as to how difficult it is to get to Tropicana Field. Because if you look, and I want to hear this from you as well. But if I open up Google Maps from my house and I type in Raymond James, okay, Amalie is the closest to me, but if I type in Raymond James, it's 19 miles from my house. It's a 23-minute drive. If I type in Tropicana Field, it's 21 miles from my house. 49-minute drive. And we're talking like it's 2 miles is going to cost me 20 more minutes each way. Like that, to me, that's insane. So I don't know how far away, like in comparison, do you know the distance between all like the stadiums from where you're at?
Yeah, I mean, I can walk to the Amalie Arena and go into, the Rays from downtown. You'd be lucky if you got there in 30 minutes. I'm originally from Plant City, and a drive from there to the Trop on a Friday afternoon, you could be 2 hours getting there, and it's just not worth it ultimately because you spend 2 hours going, 4 hours at a game, probably an hour or so coming back. That's an entire day commitment, and if you want to, it's tough to commit an entire day to a product or experience that isn't necessarily worth the time and the money. It's not really worth it. A lot of people feel that way. A lot of people don't live that close. It's nice for the people of St. Pete that don't have to travel so much, but it's a big time commitment. Here in Tampa, and I don't live that far away now, but it's if you're going on a Friday afternoon from downtown, you're going to spend still probably an hour going there. It's just it just makes it not worth it to me.
And it's crazy because it's probably 15 miles from, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got to assume it's closer to you in downtown than it is to me in Riverview.
Yeah. Let me look at my phone right now what it would say.
Just insane.
Yeah, 17 miles from here downtown, and they've got it at a 45-minute drive at the moment. So it's just never worth it to me, especially when I feel the tickets aren't as cheap as they should be.
Yeah, if you're having problems putting butts in seats, you need to make sure that your tickets are a little bit lighter, easier on the pockets, and easier for people to just come in and enjoy a game. Because everybody, when they arrive to the Trop, everybody is stressed. Like that's just really what it is. We're all stressed out by the time we get to the Trop because it's such a pain in the ass to get to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it takes forever getting over there. It's tough to navigate once you're there. Ultimately, I just feel it's not really worth the time to go over there for games for the most part.
Totally with you. Well, I guess we'll come full circle here and say once again, Jeff Finnick, give Sternberg a call. Sternberg, pick up the phone when he calls, and let's see what we can do. Let's make something happen. We appreciate everybody tuning in to Channelside in the Morning live on the Channelside Sports Network on our YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter pages this morning. Hopefully you liked what you saw, what you heard today from Henry and myself. Henry, of course, is the great managing editor of the Bolts by the Bay website, which is part of the Fansided Network. Go, excuse me, go check them out. I don't think I've ever coughed mid-speech before. That was weird. Go check out Bolts by the Bay on all the social media platforms as well. Follow along with Henry. Obviously, he might be a little light in coverage lately because hockey season is officially over. But off season, there's always good things to talk about. I think Steven does a very good job talking about prospects over on the website, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, for sure. That's something to talk about now is returning the page. So it's going to take some time to, process the way that this thing happened. But ultimately, it's not too far from now that we're all going to have to turn the page. Look to next year. The off season is short as possible once again.
Yes, it is, which is great for us fans. Not so great for players with a lot of mileage, aka the Tampa Bay Lightning. But we'll see what happens. Maybe we start doing a little load management on the old Lightning roster, kind of NBA style for the first half of the season. Just make sure we get into the make sure we get into the dance, because that's really all you need to do is get into the playoffs, and good things can happen when you get there. But we appreciate you joining the show again, as always, Henry. I mean, you're free and welcome to come on at any point in time. And if you just want to chop it up about Bucks or Rays, or if you got some off-season Lightning nuggets you want to share, by all means, hop on. Everybody that's tuned in today, which has been a lot, we've only assumed that you are Lightning fans. So hang your head. Don't hang it. Keep your head held high. They had a great 3-year run. But just because they had a great 3-year run doesn't mean they can't have an even better run in 3 out of 4 years. So this is Channelside in the Morning, live on the Channelside Sports Network. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 8 a.m. I'm Danny. That is Henry. Go check out Bolts by the Bay and read Henry's fantastic journalistic work over there.